So welcome back, everyone. And after discussing the lessons from 2021 and the future of banking, it is time we move forward to the future of finance, where decentralized finance is becoming an important part of the crypto world. For financial advisors, this is even more important because it relates to important concepts like lending and borrowing, the rapid advancement of blockchain solutions, and their inclusion into several industries already sees these sectors reaping the benefits. So this session will discuss on whether DeFi is a better solution for peer-to-peer lending. So this session is moderated by Charles Doze, Managing Director APAC ConsenSys, who's joined in this discussion by Abhinav Kumar, Chief Technology Officer, Florence Capital, Dimitrios, Kavvathas, Chief Strategy Officer, Amber Group. So welcome to FinTech Festival India, everyone. So over to you, Charles.
Thank you so much, Gitanjali. Very nice to be here today. I'm very excited to be sharing this conversation and kind of opening the eyes of the audience for those who are not familiar with DeFi yet on the world of decentralized finance, and kind of updating everyone who is aware already about decentralized finance, together with the experts joining me today. Maybe just before we start, a brief introduction about decentralized finance, in short, DeFi. It's still very much experimental and a unregulated alternative to financial system, but it's essentially grounded into the technology of blockchain. And decentralized finance has been growing over the years and covers a multitude of parts of finance today. So you can be doing credit and lending on decentralized finance. There is trading and exchanges infrastructure, which is moving billions of US$ every day today. There is a derivative ecosystem, an insurance ecosystem, all of this which is built in the DeFi manner, and essentially the same type of services, but this time without any centralized intermediaries. So it's a very fascinating and very experimental space, but which is really now in the mind of many because of the numbers it has been able to essentially attract in terms of value being deployed and at work on such infrastructure. Over the past year or so, since 2020, DeFi has really expanded dramatically, more or less 10x. From the most common summary measures. So if you look at the world of, for example, lending, you've got several billions of dollars moving every day on lending protocols. Same for stable coins, which are offering yield typically around 5%, which is much higher than any traditional or fintech bank. So all of this is really bringing a lot of talents, a lot of investments, a lot of attention from regulators as well, given the size of this space right now. And it's very important for us, I think, today with Abhinav and Dimitrios to review a little bit what are those potentials and how this is impacting our businesses today. Maybe I'll start with you, Abhinav, if that's okay, to try to understand maybe briefly what is Florence Capital focusing on and how decentralized finance impact and what does it mean for your business?
Yeah, sure. So like the biggest advantages that DeFi or any blockchain provides is low transfer fees and instant transfer of money to anywhere in the world, right? And so even in traditional finance, we have like delays of within the same country of up to a day for transferring money. And if you have to transfer cross border, it can take up to some weeks for transferring. And the transfer charges depends on the amount that you have to transfer. In blockchain, the transfer charges are fixed based on the network congestion. So you can transfer billions of dollars in cents very cheaply. Apart from that, DeFi, by its definition, is trustless. And so it offers financial services to the underserved sections of the society. We as a company are focused on serving females in India, which have been grossly underserved over the years. And so DeFi offers an opportunity for them to avail of financial services, since like anyone can sign up for a financial service to a MetaMask wallet. That's all we require. Apart from that, RBI recently has announced that they will come up with a CBDC, like rupee, rupee. So that is a very important development because it enables us to lend directly in INR on the blockchain. If earlier you want to lend on blockchain, you can only do through cryptocurrencies. And then you have to convert into fiat for use in the real world. But if you have a central bank backed coin, you can just lend in that, and people could use it for payments normally without having to convert into fiat first. Other applications might include like fraud prevention through KYC chains. And the one more important fact that blockchains offer you instant, and you can see all the transactions that a user is making on the chain. Anyone can see it. So sometimes what happens, even though we have checks in traditional finance that you are applying for a loan, you check your credit history and all that, the credit history is generally outdated. It takes up to a week, maybe up to a month for transactions to reflect on your credit history. That provides a scope for frauds where people apply to multiple banks or institutions at the same time, and they take loans 10x of what they should have gone, and then they default. These type of issues can be solved on blockchain, where when you are lending, you can see what the transaction is being sent in, see without having to wait for a month to see what he has done in the last month.
Thank you so much, Abhinav, for this kind of zoom on how it is impacting your business. I'd like to ask you, Dimitrios, maybe tell us a little bit more what kind of fintech and crypto business you are in today, and how does DeFi impact your business? What does it mean into your everyday life when you design products and release them to the market?
So we are obviously very active in the decentralized finance space as a major market maker and liquidity provider. We run nodes across various blockchains, and we act as custodians in the overall sense of the ethos of decentralized permissionless systems across various emerging protocols. So naturally, that has resulted in us being an investor, a market maker, a liquidity provider, an infrastructure support mechanism, over and above a steward of development of the concepts across various chains. I would point out to projects we have incubated, projects we are market making, and liquidity provision that we are active on a minute by minute or second by second basis. From Keeper DAO that was incubated first, we think one of the major virtual mempools, helping address the miner extractable value issue, to being the lead investor and the lead liquidity provider on the YDX and 1inch protocol, and providing research insight across defined broadly blockchain space on public forums, including an article today on NFTs, or recently about the NEAR protocol, trying to spread the word about the impact that this could be having on our business and our day-to-day lives. Obviously, our business is run on a centralized basis, right? So our app and our web platform are modularly built from a centralized perspective basis, but we constantly implement insights from the DeFi world. And I would say the modular approach towards building our infrastructure mirrors the Lego-like nature of DeFi protocols, and the cross-bridge solutions that are being built and improved on a almost daily basis across various emerging blockchains. And I know we are Ethereum friends, both of us, from the start, but of course we have to acknowledge that DeFi now is not just an Ethereum occasion. We think of how to apply those lessons to make the flows run seamlessly. Even today, like literally 20 minutes ago, we were talking about how we would see the Uniswap pool on a project we are working on, and would be utilizing building blocks of DeFi technology. So I try to describe an organization where permissionless blockchains underpin and are diffused across the ethos and the processes of our organization all around. So I hope this helps set the tone, Charles.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dimitrios. I was wondering, we have the chance here to have on this panel Abhinav, which is really lending to retail users some funds for their new businesses or their lives, and we have you, Dimitrios, which is way closer to the infrastructure and the market itself. And maybe I will try to cross questions if that's okay. Abhinav, when you look at the market of DeFi and all these different experimentations, which are some of them getting really very strong tractions now, which part of DeFi and which part of the infrastructure you feel is the closest to be part of your everyday business in the coming months or maybe coming years?
Fraud prevention is something that we feel is very important for us. And on-chain solutions like KYC chain help in that. Plus, on the flip side, when customers are facing issues of fraud because their KYC documents are being used by different unauthorized persons to apply for loan in their name. We had a case, some cases in India recently about that, where people didn't know that their KYC documents are being used to avail loan. So a KYC chain solution like that addresses this problem where you don't have to do KYC and again for each time. At the same time, customers have the control whether they can they want to share their address with when they are applying for a loan. So not your data is safe on the chain and it's not accessible by anyone. So these kind of solutions I think are very important for us. And apart from that, payments is really important, like ability to transfer money instantly at low charges, low transfer fees is very important.
Thank you. Dimitrios, from the market infrastructure play where you really focus a lot of your efforts, have you seen some products or projects which have been going the last mile, if I can say so, and helping with DeFi infrastructure, the everyday life of people? Do you have some examples for the audience to kind of link this DeFi space to the everyday life of some entrepreneurs or families?
I would say, I would point out that perhaps some would say it's unfortunate. I would say it's fortunate that most efforts all these years mostly have been revolving around, really, let's put it in another word, speculation, right? Or aspects of inward-looking trading activity. There hasn't been any consistent method of linking or applying broad market-based insights into work that is relevant from a blockchain perspective. So let me be specific. So let's say you remember, like 1 or 2 years ago, we had worked on a deliver mechanism and settlement protocol on Ethereum blockchain that could have substituted for or complemented the existing market settlement infrastructure in the European Union. Well, the regulators actually weren't ready for it. Even having been ready, it took, it's only ESMA like a few months ago that came up with some guidance on how one should be thinking about how, for example, a central securities depository fit alongside an Ethereum-based settlement protocol. So that is definitely a place where I can see imminently. And there have been case studies, but the case studies are, for example, outside the CSD system, where one can see that there is a really strong need and will make a really big difference to the efficiency and transparency and ease of market entry of trading infrastructure mechanisms in the traditional world, where the obvious advantages of permissionless blockchain haven't been applied. The second one I would raise, which is something we have been spending a lot of time at Amber Group recently, and obviously other market participants have been as well, is the sustainability topic, where everything where transparency, immutability, provenance, topics where blockchains can play a huge role alongside money, which was the first application, can come to bear on the issue of improving everyone's life by allowing the reliable offset and retirement of carbon credits, allowances, emissions in a going forward, effectively improving the chances for climate sustainability and various sustainability goals going forward. Number 3 is, obviously, there are projects like Abhinav's who are trying to address these topics on a global basis and have won reasonable publicity. I wouldn't want to point out a particular one or two of them, but there are a few who are very well trying to address this universe. Obviously, the peer-to-peer lending universe has had various lives in finance over the last 10, 15 years, from various platforms that came alive in China and had cracked down afterwards to what had happened both in Europe and the US. So the good news is we've learned some lessons about how this works and how it can be done better. On the other hand, I'm not certain this is really the killer app going forward, as much as it could address and it could help in various market needs. So I just want to give like these 3 points: trading market infrastructure, sustainability, and peer-to-peer. Obviously, again, as you know, we can spend hours discussing those topics, but I hope again this provides some framework for our audience and the remaining discussion.
Dimitrios, I'd like to stay with you. How would peer-to-peer trading be better off with a DeFi infrastructure? And what DeFi could bring, and let's go a little bit forward, fast forward. Let's try to project ourselves in the next maybe 12, 24 months when CBDCs are there and they come with the guarantees of central banks. What would peer-to-peer benefit from DeFi lending protocols we are seeing today?
Well, obviously, we will be able to see variations of instant settlement, instant clearing, traceability, transparency, visibility. Now, what happens at the last mile, where one needs the support of bureaucracies, of state bureaucracies, to allow for the final settlement point and enforceability point, is where we would need either to provide alternative solutions that I don't think are clear yet and are not enforceable yet, or we'll need some version of state support in jurisdictions. So blockchain can do, like DeFi can do a lot up to a point, and sadly, or not sadly perhaps, and it's not for us to judge, there is still the last mile that needs to be addressed in ways that have to conform to regulations. I hate to use just regulations, right? Just the way pipes have been established in the traditional world. And I'm not sure the answers are there yet on how to address that. And I'm not sure the willingness, naturally, of the authorities broadly are there to make that point. Obviously, let's say India, right? So UPI was a major improvement in people's lives and has become the backbone of amazingly innovative and impactful efforts. It's unclear to me how can DeFi substitute for or connect with. No, the unclear point is it needs to, like, I don't see how DeFi specifically, let's say in India, will be complementary. I don't see it being a substitute for UPI and everything that follows to that, which means naturally it needs the support or the engagement of the government and bureaucracy. So I'll stop there because I think it's a good example where the government is actually perhaps ahead in many ways.
Abhinav, would you be able to complement as well Dimitrios' comments here on how maybe it's the hybrid solutions which will eventually get a proper market tractions and an alignment with the regulators? We should not think all centralized or decentralized, but maybe the best is to build in balance hybrid solutions.
Certainly, in the DeFi space also, like there are many missing blocks. And as Dimitrios mentioned, the last mile settlement is still missing. Like in DeFi, you can lend through tokens where you provide tokens as collateral. But what if users need it in the real world? CBDC does help. Apart from that, RBI, which is the regulatory body in India, is also coming up with a regulatory framework for DeFi apps to operate. And yeah. For last mile connectivity, like we were also exploring something similar. India already has a P2P lending market where people can lend to other people through a certain framework that RBI has provided. Kind of replicating similar framework on chain where we underwrite cases and we show a portfolio performance, and people based on the portfolio performance can invest through tokens. So they provide us money through the tokens. We convert into fiat or CBDC and lend it out to users, and they pay us back on time. So kind of hybrid approach where both the worlds work together, whether it be centralized or decentralized, is the best way to move forward right now, because DeFi in itself does not have all the solutions.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Maybe Abhinav and Dimitrios, I'd like to switch gear a little bit and keep exploring the future with you. And my question, and I will give my takes on this one maybe as a start, is I really would like to understand for you, professionals of finance and decentralized finance, what will you pay attention to in 2022? It's the world of blockchain is a very intense world where there is every day a new wave of news and innovations and product releases, and it's always, I think, important for the audience to capture what comes to your mind and where do you pay attention. On my side, of course, I will keep looking at the growth of DeFi in general. With MetaMask, a product of ConsenSys, we are seeing a massive growth of users, and the payments, the NFT use case are very quickly being complemented by GameFi. But I will also pay attention in 2022 to the world of decentralized autonomous organizations such as DAOs as a new way for humans and groups to organize themselves, leveraging this new generation of internet, the Web3, trying to replace a little bit the associations and the limited companies of this world by blockchain-based kind of framework for working or getting organized together. So that's my 2 cents on where to pay attention for 2022. But maybe Dimitrios, you have also topics which are high in your list for 2022 to share with the audience here today.
So first, I would echo your point and your statements about the importance of Web3 and looking into the developments of adoption in the space. Broadly speaking, as we've seen, it's the first time really the crypto universe has become relevant to the real world. Obviously, finance was an application that was close to a lot of our hearts, but it never really, apart from a curiosity impact and making money impact, it hasn't really made that much of a difference, if one needs to be honest about it, in how the world works. Nevertheless, Web3 is a unique opportunity, and we've already seen how creators have embraced NFTs, social tokens, the opportunities that the infrastructure provides to them, and that will definitely continue to be top of mind for anyone who wants to be interested in the space. I mentioned the gaming again. I think there's lots of interesting topics, but I'm not necessarily convinced that the traditional centralized players would embrace it as we may wish, but who knows? I mentioned sustainability, and I think developments on the topic are ones that would be something I'll be watching into, especially since, in simple terms, it is closer to market dynamics to Web3 rather than finance, i.e., in simple terms, traditional finance doesn't want DeFi or blockchain, big picture. Web3 enjoys it. Sustainability is a topic that governments and civil society, much more importantly, could use any solution one can get them. And so you could see having the support rather than the opposition of regulators and incumbents would make a big difference in terms of solution adoption. Finally, I'm very focused on seeing how the impact of governments on what is happening right now in the geopolitical space would be on how one would develop either CBDCs or find ways to, and perhaps not correctly, address the point that cryptocurrencies can be an sanction evader broadly, right? So, which was something that was always, like, some of us have been in the space for a long time. Remember how Bitcoin rallied on the back of the Cyprus bank haircut situation back in 2013, or how it behaved in other geopolitical events. And having been hammered over the last 3 months about its lack of diversification properties, just really following NASDAQ, how it behaved the last 2-3 days on the back of the Russia sanction events could make a big difference on how regulators would be thinking about it, and could be very positive, could be very negative. So we'll see. So we'll be watching that. So yeah, it maybe took too long to answer, but I think these are important topics. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dimitrios. Abhinav, curious about what you will pay attention to in 2022, and if I can bother you to try to define Web3 for the audience, and right after that we'll take questions from the audience indeed.
Yeah, so things that I would like to keep an eye on is scaling solutions for the Ethereum net, because the transaction fees are increasing. We have the Ethereum 2.0, which I think is docking is starting this year. And apart from that, we have L2 scaling solutions like rollups, which kind of both are aiming to improve the scalability of the transactions and all of that. That's something I feel is important if you want to have real world applications, because at that point you will hit scale, and we have to be ready for that. Apart from that, for real world applications, things like Oracle services, which Chainlink is providing, are very important, like providing different real world data onto the chain for smart contract to function. These are some of important things. As Dimitrios mentioned, regulatory frameworks being decided all over the world, in India as well, where the regulatory bodies are trying to provide a framework where it is both regulated and provides scope for innovation as well, is kind of what I would be keeping my eye on.
Thank you so much, Abhinav. I think it's time for us to collect some questions from the audience. So feel free to share them, and we will try together with Dimitrios and Abhinav to cover them and give you some hints about it. While the questions are being gathered, I'll take just a minute to define Web3. So you heard Dimitrios and Abhinav mentioning Web3. Web3 stands for Internet 3, so the third generation of Internet. And if you look at the history of those networks, we've seen over time the Internet #1 generation being a kind of very passive, and us connecting to web pages and consuming content. The second generation of Internet, the Web 2, was much more of a social internet, where we started to move part of our lives on social medias and having much more interactions with our friends and family via those platforms, those Web 2 platforms. And now we start to see the growth of a third generation of internet, the Web 3, where essentially these centralized services and service providers, which used to connect us with one another and taking rent or essentially monetizing our personal data, are essentially being replaced by blockchain infrastructures, by peer-to-peer lending platforms powered by software and smart contracts rather than entities. So this is what we are witnessing right now, is the birth and the growth of Web3, which is offering a wealth of different potentials. So I leave you here with those comments, and Jital and G, if you want to share with us some questions, if there is any, we'll be happy to take it from there. I can see the questions are coming. Thank you, everyone from the audience. So the first question is, how are we seeing the future of fintech in the next 10 years with the growth of DeFi? So that's the first questions, which we can build on. So will fintech be replaced by DeFi? Maybe Abhinav, you have some comments on that, or maybe DeFi is just a component of fintech. A big debate can start here, but we'll keep it short.
Yeah, like my opinion is like DeFi is part of the fintech space.
Fair enough.
Unless you go into metaverse where it can exist alone, but in real world it will have to work hand in hand with the existing fintech market and players, and you have to have a buy-in from all providers. Like they all have to work together to take the space forward. It's a relatively new field, right? barely 3-4 years, but there's a lot of scope for a lot of things here, fraud prevention or transactions or a lot of things. So if we can, scale it up easily and keep the best things that DeFi provides, along with the checks and balances that traditional finance has, that's what I would think the future would look like.
Maybe one thing, Abhinav, to complement your great answer is, I think DeFi is bringing composability to fintech. So fintech is a series of different services and verticals which are essentially have accelerated digitalization in finance in general. And what DeFi brings, built on the top of blockchain, having this single ledger or groups of ledgers, is the fact that you can start to essentially break silos and build composable finance. And I think DeFi is one illustration of the composable finance, and it's a very, very powerful concept, allowing you to build additional services from a mortgage you might have, or from a loan, and being able to port this loan from one service provider to another. So I think that's an interesting concept where DeFi essentially boosts the fintech conversations and progress. We'll move on with a question from Rikshav. Given that the Indian context for peer-to-peer payments are not allowed via crypto, which is not considered as a currency in the Indian context, will that pose any challenge for DeFi and Web3 actions overall in India? Abhinav, I guess I'll start with you and try to give us your views on how regulations in India could pose potentially challenges to Web3 and DeFi.
So regulations in India are, I would say, not finalized yet, because the cryptocurrency bill is yet to be tabled in the parliament. But we have, from the recent announcements, we have a very positive outlook. They have started including crypto for taxation, being considered an asset. IBI is coming up with their own CBDC, which will kind of help in peer-to-peer, as I mentioned earlier. Plus, RBI is also looking at a framework for DeFi apps. So maybe peer-to-peer is not allowed right now, but the future might change. Like, if there is a CBDC, how will it interact with other cryptocurrencies is where this plays in. And we don't have enough information at this point, but we are looking forward to it.
We are certainly very impatient to see this space growing. So I'd like to thank both of you, Abhinav and Dimitrios, for joining me today for this panel during the festival. And thanks everyone for making the time and joining the conversation. Back to you and back to this exciting program.
Thank you so much, Charles, and thank you, Dimitrios and Abhinav, for joining us in this conversation today. With this, it is time to move on to our next session. So all of you who've joined us, remember to go back to agenda and select next session for viewing. We'll be right back.
5 मिनट में अकाउंट सेटअप और ट्रेडिंग शुरू। हाँ कर सकते हैं। नहीं कर सकते। लगी शर्त और हारा तो It's possible with CoinSwitch Kuber. Download करो और Bitcoin trading start करो. CoinSwitch Kuber. सिक्का चमकेगा.
Cryptocurrency is a non-regulated digital asset, not a legal tender and subject to market risks and price fluctuation risks.
Where there is life, there is hope, there is meaning. But life has its downs as much as its ups. Life is about challenges. Life is about opportunities. Time for joy, time for celebration, and time to introspect. Thankfully, in every one of life's moments, and even beyond life itself, there's LIC. Where there is life, there's always LIC. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi.
Welcome to Fago, a pioneer in the world of intelligent open finance. With our full-stack open finance platform, we enable companies to understand their users' financial behavior across various use cases, making finance engaging and actionable. Fago's developer-friendly product stack helps clients with friction-free user onboarding and authentication using trusted account information. Connect and aggregate your users' banking transaction data from any source, either any of the account aggregators or directly from any core banking solution at flexible intervals. Enrich and categorize transaction data using machine learning algorithms to extract deep behavioral attributes of your users. Understand and act on real-time insights powered by your users' behavior for a variety of use cases ranging from lending, wealth, income verification, frauds, to even branding and marketing insights. Engage with your users by embedding our personal finance management SDK in your existing user-facing app to push positive financial habits and personalize financial insights to your users. If you are looking to engage or understand your user base's financial behavior to take informed decisions, Fago is your perfect partner. With the complete Fago suite, you can now capture what drives your users at every stage of their journey and use it to drive your growth. Plug into Fago and let us do the heavy lifting for you.